This is Anthony Condella he's the Bookshare Outreach Coordinator. He's going to present on the subject, Projecting Power Through Knowledge. Bookshare shows you the way. And I've actually met Tony many years ago through the Long Beach Blind Rehabilitation Center. So he's familiar with veterans and some of our needs and interests. And he's now with Bookshare, and he's going to share a little bit about Bookshare and what they can do for us and individual veterans. So I'll just go ahead and turn the time over to Tony and welcome you and thank you for connecting with us. Thank you also for the sponsorship of the convention as well. They're supporting us greatly and with our convention. So glad to have you and welcome you here. Go ahead.
Thank you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I think at least I can. Yeah, I think we're in good shape.
Okay.
We can see you and hear you both.
Okay. And hopefully I'm not too far askew on my camera because I keep bumping it. So I hope I'm relatively centered.
No, I think it looks really good.
All right. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. And we're very happy to be a sponsor as well. The company I'm working for, a little part-time job after retiring from the Blind Rehab Center in Long Beach, California, is Bookshare. That's who I work for, and its mother organization is called Benetech, which is short for Beneficent Technology. So it's a company that was founded about 20 years ago, a little less than 20 years ago, to do a bunch of things, including, and its largest division is Bookshare. So Bookshare got started when people with personal computers started owning scanners, and the scanning software could be loaded into the personal computer, and you no longer had to have a big giant $60,000 reading machine anymore to scan books. You could do it in your home.
Is that the regular one we always use?
A lot of people scanned books, and they decided to scan books in a library and share them out with other blind people. And so that's how Bookshare got started. Now, all these years later, Bookshare has more than 1 million books in its library. It's extremely sophisticated. Hardly any of the books come from individuals who scan them anymore. They mostly all come from the publishing companies directly in electronic formats that are available today. And then when Bookshare gets the books from these publishing companies, it uploads them into its big giant computer and has them all digitally ready to go. So when then you, the customer, or me, I'm blind myself, so when we all request a book from Bookshare, we get to ask for it in the format of our choice. So I always use the audio format, and I can read it on my Library for the Blind talking book reader.
Thank you for choosing freeconferencecall.com. You are helping people around the world communicate for free. Please enter your access code followed by the pound or hash sign.
Sound to go away. Okay, good. When you get a book, it can be in either audio format, it could be in a visual format, and there's different ones. It could be an audio visual format, which means that you can have the book both to read it off of your computer screen or any other device that has a screen on it, and also listen to it at the same time. And there are even Braille formats where you download the book into an electronic Braille device, and then it feeds the book into the device and you read it line by line in Braille if you want to. This is really good for students who are doing complicated things where you might need 3 different formats if you could use them: visual, audio, and Braille. I suspect most of us are either going to be reading it in in some sort of magnified version, visual, or we're going to be reading it in audio. You can also just open up the book on the Bookshare website from your computer, and you could just read it right then and there without having to download it at all. You could just read it right there in web format, right on the Bookshare website, and never have to download the book if you don't want to. Now, if you do want to download the book, and remember, there's more than 1 million volumes in their library, If you do want to download the book, you first you sign up with Bookshare, then you learn how to handle the website a little bit, then you go find your title, you download it, and then when you get it into your computer, you could either leave it in your computer or you could transfer it to a device of your choice. Like I always put mine on a cartridge that I read on my talking book reader from the Library for the Blind, but I also have a Victor Reader Stream device and a little cable connection, and I can put the book in there. Also, you can download the book directly from your iPhone or from your Android smartphone as well. And for that, you would go to the Bookshare website right from your smartphone. And you'd feed the book through a piece of software you'd also have to download that actually processes the book into your phone. Like the one that I have in my phone is called Dolphin Easy Reader, and those are free. And then the Dolphin Easy Reader is kind of the intermediary between Bookshare sending the book into your phone and you listening to it on your phone, or even reading it on the screen if you want to use the magnification feature in your smartphone, or do both. So the good thing about the way Bookshare operates is because all of the books, one way or the other, start out from the Bookshare computer in electronic format, they have over the years developed a technique by which they convert the book into whatever format you want. So this differs, for example, from most books from the Library for the Blind. They're modernizing too and trying different approaches. But most of the books from the Library for the Blind, the good news is they are read by human beings into the master copy, whereas a Bookshare book is gonna be speech synthesized, very high quality synthesized speech, very high quality. The good news with a Library for the Blind book is it's written by a human, it's read by a human reader, and they can inflect their voice and make it sound the way the author probably intended for it to sound. The bad news is there are not nearly as many formats as you can get with Bookshare. And for most of you, those are probably the two services you use the most for any kind of books that you want to read that are in adapted format, or magazines for that matter, in adapted format. A lot of the college students that I have spoken with want to have a few other things in their toolbox because when they need a book, they need it for a course that they're taking right then and there, and there's a rush job because they need to get that book and be reading that book when the professor gives the assignments. And so they have to make sure that they have some version of that book as soon as possible. Me, I'm lucky, I'm retired. Something doesn't happen today. As long as it happens by tomorrow, I don't get too anxious. After that, I still have the habit of getting anxious. Things can't happen quite fast enough for me, even in retirement. But I don't have to worry about having it today. I could get it tomorrow. So Bookshare is very fast. From the time I initiate a search for a book until I actually have the book in my hand, given that they have to do the processing of my request in their computer and convert it into the format that I'm asking for, it's maybe 2 hours. From when I say, oh, I want that title. I just heard about a title on the radio, or they're talking about, you know, the latest book on the pandemic, God help us, or some other thing that's making the news. And somebody has just written a book and you want to read it. And you can binge read. Bookshare generally has all the books that you want, especially the newer ones. And you can binge read. And you could pile up a bunch of books in your to-do list. And then you'll look at them and say, I'm never going to be able to read all these books. Why did I binge read like this? Why did I just not take a little care and decide, oh, maybe I won't get that book right now. But with Bookshare, you can get the book within a couple of hours of when you think you want it. And there it'll be in your device of choice, your computer, your smartphone, your Library for the Blind reader, your Victor Reader Stream, whatever device you use. Now let's see, I'm going to go to my notes because up until now I haven't been using my notes at all. I'm very proud, first of all, to be the son of a veteran. I was visually impaired since I was a little kid, so I couldn't join the service. My dad was a Marine, or as the Marines will tell you, you're always a Marine, even when you pass away, as he did 12 years ago. He's still a Marine, and he raised me like you would think a Marine would raise you, so I was raised pretty tough. And then I did a psychology internship when I was working on my PhD in psychology way back in the late 1980s at a VA hospital in upstate New York. And then I had an entire career in the blindness field, working for private, not-for-profit, and government agencies. And then I finished my career at the VA healthcare center in Long Beach, California, where I got to open up the blind rehab center down there. So when I got down there, the building was still being built. We had no staff. Thank God we had the money. And that's the one thing I can say about the VA. It's the only job I ever had in my whole life when I didn't have to worry about the money. They had the money for the building, for the equipment, to hire the staff, anything the veterans would be provided in the way of assistive technologies. There was the money. And boy, was I spoiled. But I'm glad it happened at the end of my career, because if it had happened at the beginning, I would have never been able to work anywhere else but the VA. So I am so grateful. I got to hire the staff. We got to get the training curriculum into place. We had a lot of help from the already existing blind rehab centers around the country. And we had models to follow. We had equipment lists we could buy off of, so we didn't have to figure it all out ourselves. And we got that thing. It took a year from when I got there till we finally opened the doors. And then by the time I left, in its 5th year, the center was up and running. And in my opinion, it was a mature organization by that point. It could run without me, which has been doing quite nicely, thank you, since I left, almost 6 years ago now. So I was really, really, really happy to finish my career at the VA. Let's see here. I'm going to skip through because I have to finish by 4:30 Eastern. So it's 4:12 now. I've covered all this. Okay, you know what we always say to everybody, and why we think Bookshare is so important is because we use the old adage: reading is fundamental, and knowledge is power. And I kind of entitled my presentation to you today, projecting power through knowledge, because the military like to project power, and that's pretty much all I know about the military. You just heard it all. And the point is, knowledge is power, and reading is fundamental to gaining knowledge, and that's what Bookshare is all about. And we call our projects global literacy projects because we are stretched all around the world now. We have staff in several countries on all of the continents. Big giant contract with Australia. We're in India, we're in Southeast Asia, different countries in Africa, etc., Europe, of course, and the Americas. And we have books in multiple languages. And since a couple of years ago, when the Marrakesh Treaty was signed by everybody, the Marrakesh Treaty basically extended the copyright law that we use in the United States, and some of the other countries in the world use also. We extended it pretty much to all around the world. So it was an international agreement, and President Trump signed it. It came to his desk a couple of years ago. And so the United States and all these countries now can freely interchange books in agreements with all of the publishing companies around the world that have signed on to the treaty as well. So not only do we have books that are from the United States in the library, we're slowly increasing the library, bringing in books from around the world. And more important, we're able to send the books out around the world more freely now because we have the most books. And so we're sharing, and you can read foreign language books that are produced in the countries where they were produced, as well as English language books as well. So we call Bookshare an ebook library because everything is electronic book format. And I already explained to you enough of the technicalities for you to have a sense of how we do what we do. The publisher sending the books to Bookshare. I think we have agreements now with more than 1,000 different publishing houses. So that there's hardly any books anymore that some publisher hasn't agreed to share at Bookshare under the copyright law. And you'll see at the beginning of every book, there's this statement. It kind of reminds me of the FBI statement at the beginning of DVDs, where copying this book will surely, land you in jail, that kind of thing. So we have the same thing. Please honor the copyright law. You're allowed to share your book with somebody else with a reading disability, but don't share it with the general public because the publishers still want to sell books. And you're getting your book as free. Speaking of cost, there is a cost for Bookshare itself. It's $50 a year, unlimited downloads. And if you're in New York and you, hold on one second, I've got a cough. If you're in New York and you're connected to the Library for the Blind in New York, it's one of the places where they have a grant from the federal government to pay for your Bookshare subscription. And we're trying to get that set up for the future. It's in the strategic plan going forward that we're going to try to get the same kind of an arrangement with all of the other libraries for the blind chapters in the country, and that's going to mean a lot of figuring out where's the money going to come from to do it and getting grants from the government. But right now we know we have it in New York where I am based. So anybody else, pretty much it's $50 a year for Bookshare, and given how much binge reading you could do, you can see that it's well worth it. Let's see, I'm skipping over stuff now that I've already covered. So the qualified, anybody who's legally blind qualifies for Bookshare. The main issue is a reading disability of some type. So in addition to visual impairment causing a reading disability of some type, we have folks who have learning disabilities where reading a regular print book is extra hard for them. Their brains just don't focus on the print as well. Concentration is not as good, etc. And so they use a lot of those audio visual formats that we have available, where they can look on the screen and see the book with their eyes, and the screen can actually track the words, and the speech will be saying the words, and the screen will be lighting up where the word that is being spoken is also on the screen. So they're getting like a triple bang for their buck. They're getting it visual, they're getting it highlighted visual, and they're getting it audio all at the same time. And that all was developed for the people with learning disabilities. For us with visual impairments, we got the magnification formats and we got the audio formats. And for the very few of us out there that read Braille well enough that we want to read a book in Braille, which I am not one of. I didn't learn Braille until I was 33 years old. I should have learned Braille when I was 5. So when you learn Braille when you're 5, if you were born blind and you learn Braille when you were 5, you can read a book in Braille just as fast as somebody who can read a book visually can. I wish I was one of them, but I'm not. So the formats, I think, are like the biggest aspect of what makes Bookshare so different from everybody else. Well, I've gone over the devices that you can download your book into. Just to run past them again, you can read them right out of your computer. You could use the web version of the book and not even download the book. You just go to the title in the Bookshare website itself and just get to the web version of the book. There's a read now button, and you just press it, and it opens up the book. And it's all organized. Press this link for chapter 1, press this link for chapter 2, and you can read the book that way. The audio formats, there's more than one type of audio format. So I get the DAISY audio format, which is compatible with the Library for the Blind book reading machine, and also it works with the Victor Reader Stream very nicely. They have MP3 versions of the audio format if you want to load it into an MP3 player, for example. Generally, you don't get as much control over the book that way, but it's available. And you can also download the book in Microsoft Word format. And here is where, this is really good for the students because then they can take notes right in their book. And this is where the trust factor comes in, because now you could actually alter the book. If you opened it up in Microsoft Word, you could actually alter the book. So you basically, you know, when you say, I agree to the terms and conditions and press that OK button when you're signing up for Bookshare, that's part of what you're agreeing to is don't alter the formats of the books and just use it for the purpose that it was there for people with reading disabilities so they could read. To learn how to do all this, we generally recommend, especially rather than me trying to explain this all to you now, how you get started with Bookshare, how you get into the website, what you have to do when you get there, how do you actually download a book. We generally recommend when you're getting started, you go to the Bookshare website and you can search around. If you're really good with websites, you're not going to need any help. You search around until you find, you know, how do I sign up for Bookshare? And then you go and you follow the process. You will be asked to provide some kind of documentation that you have a reading disability. And sometimes this is a piece of paper that has to get mailed to Bookshare out in California. But if you happen to be a member of the Library for the Blind system already, you can tell Bookshare that you're already a member and which branch you're connected to. And Bookshare will connect to that library branch because they've already done all of the homework to get you qualified for them at the library. So they'll just share the data with Bookshare and then you don't have to do anything. So you actually have to have a reading disability and somebody who is official, a doctor or the Library for the Blind, somebody, a VA VIST coordinator is another person, or somebody at one of the blind rehab centers. These are people who have documentation already showing that you have a reading disability, so you don't have to do any extra work. They can certify you. And then once you're certified that, you know, you qualify, then if you have to pay your $50, you pay your $50. And you can do that online, as I do every year, with your credit card. And then you're good to go for an entire year. And that's how you sign up. And then if you need help, we recommend that you go to the customer services workers that work directly in Bookshare headquarters, because that's what they do all day. They handle problems that people have. I'm going to jump to the bottom of my notes so I can read this phone number to you now. This is even if you just want to get started and you need help, you can use the same phone number. So let me just jump down here. Let's see here. And okay. The phone number for anything Bookshare is 650-352-0198. So 650-352-0198. And so all things Bookshare, that's the number to call. Let me see if there's anything else I want to tell you. This is a brief half-hour presentation. You guys don't know how lucky you are because usually these are 1 hour ones that by now you'd be asleep. So this is good.
We do have one question up there, but you can keep going a little bit longer if you'd like, Tony. But yeah,
Okay,
there is.
I don't think I got anything more key to tell everybody here. No, you know what? I can take questions.
Okay. Don, can you go ahead and?
Yep, yeah, so last four on the phone number 3982. Go ahead and unmute yourself with *6 and ask your question.
Yeah, this is Dr. Boucher again from Massachusetts. I just want to go back where that gentleman said when Marines die, they're still Marines. But there's an old saying that reads, Marines never die, they just go to hell and regroup.
All right, I love it. I love it. Well, I can tell you this, he gave me a lot of hell, so he probably is down there somewhere. Thank you.
Well, thanks again for all these conferences. I'll stick with it for the rest of the week.
Thank you,
Alright.
Gerard. We appreciate it. Does anybody else have any questions? If you do, please go ahead and use the raise hand feature now. That's going to be *9 for those on the telephone. And with no other questions, Tony, if you've still got a couple of minutes, if there's any other information you want to share, and we'll let you know if any questions pop in.
All right, let's see. Now, again, for people who are interested in this kind of thing, this is slightly off topic, but just to show you what else Benetech is doing. They are all over the years, they've had different projects, some of which came to fruition and some of which they eventually didn't. But I remember way back, like 15 years ago, the head of the company, a gentleman named Jim Fruchterman, they were working on software that was going to go into devices for mine detection for all these wars of yore, where they left behind all the mines in the ground, people stepping on them and getting blown up years after the war is over. And I think they ended up feeding their piece of the software project to another company, because I don't think they got directly involved anymore, but they were part of that. Another piece of software, when you want to send an encrypted message where you don't want anybody to know where you are, and what they had in mind was a project they were doing with Amnesty International for people who were enslaved or otherwise being tortured in places, and they needed to get message out, but they didn't want the bad guys to find them. They were very involved in that encryption software, and you could see that encrypted software has gone a long, long way since those days. So they were doing that kind of stuff. And the funny story I'll tell you is that the guy who started Bookshare, which eventually became Benetech, when it added all the other projects, he's still involved with the company, and they're working on how to have an automated way for a computer to look at a diagram, or to look at other types of images, graphs and bar charts and other types of diagrams that the computer, using artificial intelligence, could figure out how to describe that diagram to somebody who cannot see it, and do it properly and intelligently, but without any human intervention. So, like, for example, if you get your college books from this other organization called Learning Ally, they have readers read those books. They have subject matter experts. So when they hit these, it could be a chemistry book or something like that. When they hit these books, the subject matter expert, the guy that's reading the book, is a chemist. So he can describe the shape of that molecule or whatever he's describing in a way that a person who cannot see can understand it. They're working on a project now, they call it the Diagrams Project, to get machines to be able to do that kind of describing. Too many books, too many diagrams, not enough human readers. So that's why they're doing that. And finally, the guy who founded the company started out as an engineer. He was what we would call a rocket scientist. And one day, him and his friends launched a rocket from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory at Caltech in Southern California. And it went up, and it immediately exploded, and that was the end of his career.
Yeah, that's a good one. Tony, we've got one other question. It's going to be somebody who's probably on a Mac, BAT-PAV27.
Yes, this is Gary Schulman from Louisiana, Mississippi Regional Group. I was calling to see, want to see if they still charge for the books that are out of copyright. At one time, I know Bookshare did not charge for those books.
Oh, I don't know. No, I'll have to get that, and I'll forward the information as best I can.
Yeah, and Tony, you can forward it to me or Stuart. We can get it to Gary.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. I had not been asked that one before. Thank you for the question. So I just want to say thank you for having me, everybody, and these are trying times, so hang in there, everybody.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for the presentation. Thanks for the support today. And we're always standing by to support your team, so don't hesitate in reaching out to us, sir.
Very welcome. Take care.
Cancel button.
Thank you.